Addy soldiers. Ugh, caffeine. I put the last of my eggnog in this because I don't know about you, but I'm not quite ready to let the holidays go yet. In fact, I might keep this delightful string of fairy lights up on my bookshelf all year long, and none of you can stop me. Congratulations, everybody. We've made it to 2024. That still doesn't feel real. That's a fake number. Does anyone else feel personally victimized by the Gregorian calendar? Regina George? Gregorian calendar. Coincidence? Oh, I'm in a weird mood today. All right, starting off 2024 caffeinated. So welcome, everybody. If you're new here, it is always this weird. Personally, 2023 was one of the best years of my life. I started getting into dance. I got a lovely partner. I got at least 5 new skulls for interior decorating purposes and no nefarious reasons. And I managed to read 83 books before the year was up. I hope you guys aren't bored of seeing these best books of 2023 videos. Obviously you're here, so thank you for humoring me. But I read so many good books in 2023 and I want to yell about them. So without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, and join me as we go over, in no particular order, my top 10 books of 2023. And of course, everyone's top books of the year are going to be different because I'm me and you're you, and guess what? We're not the same person and we could like different things, and that's okay. I am also not going to be including any St. Martin's Press books because the boycott is still on. They gave an abysmally embarrassing response to it, so most of the book blogger community has agreed that they have not apologized yet. So this list would be slightly different if I could include St. Martin's Press titles. Alas, I cannot. So that did affect the choosing of these a tiny bit. So the one we're going to start with is the one that's on the top of my pile, which is a fantastical macabre Southern Gothic that I read in September and absolutely fell head over heels in love with because everything in Starling House by Alex E. Harrow just reached right into my chest and dug its claws into my black, putrid, rotting little heart. We start off in the dying mining town of Eden, Kentucky, whose only claim to fame is that it has this beautiful Starling House mansion that was owned once by a prolific children's author who wrote this darkly macabre fairy tale that our main character Opal has a strange connection to. Opal is just trying to make ends meet and get enough money to send her younger brother away to college. But when she gets an unusual and uncanny job offer to help clean up the crumbling Starling house, she accepts and starts to learn more about the heir who lives there, Arthur, and together they are unearthing buried secrets beneath the house, as well as confronting their own demons and secrets and trying to keep nightmares from running amok in the town. I don't know how she does it, but yet again, Alex E. Harrow has written a freaking banger. She has this beautiful, flowing, fantastical writing that contrasts really nicely with this kind of urban grit of the city and of Opal. This book straddles the line between this fantastical other, but also the real world and real world problems with real world people. We get a look into the dark history of the South. We get a look into the poverty of the Bible Belt. But juxtaposing that is this haunting legacy of family loyalty and hunting monsters, keeping dreams at bay, and feeding a house with your own blood. Oh, I almost forgot. This has one of my favorite tropes of all time, which is cool house. We have cool sentient house. I also love how everybody in this book is described as ugly. Like, Opal is said to have really fucked up teeth, and Arthur is just like really pointy, and one of our main older women has like a really bad side shave, and I just love the idea that if like you are above a 4, they will evict you from this town. Heart and home and unburied family secrets all come together in this beautiful dark fairy tale modern gothic that I cannot get enough of. So we are only on number 2, but I'm gonna cheat already. This book came out in the UK in 2022, but it didn't come out in the US and Canada, where I live, not the US, until 2023, so I think it counts. I can make up my own rules because there are no gods here. It's God Killer by Hannah Canner. And do you see this cover? There's a fucked up deer. Oh, I love a fucked up deer. This is the first of a new high fantasy duology that is set in the aftermath of a war between humans and gods. Our main character, Kissin, is a god killer assassin whose own family was killed by zealots of a fire deity, and she ends up having to travel with a young noblewoman and a disillusioned knight to the final stronghold city of gods when she finds a god that she cannot kill. We get deals with gods and demons alike. We have destroyed cities made of ruined temples. We have girl assassins and so many gays. We have amazing disability rep in this fantasy world too. Kissin doesn't have a leg and also suffers from chronic pain, and Ello has PTSD that causes shutdown episodes and tremors. I love this world and the god cities so much, and I love seeing basically the aftermath and the real repercussions of war and the consequences of being an assassin and how that all fucks with everyone's psyches. Plus the idea of wild gods and how belief can make something more and more real, so be careful what you believe in, is, I don't know why, but I fuck with that hardcore. But I didn't grow up religious, so like maybe that has something to do with it? I don't know. I feel like if this thing showed up in front of me, I would join a cult. Speaking of cults, I just finished this book in December, so if you watched my December wrap-up, where I gave it some screen time as well, you'll know that this is going to be my new personality in 2024. Thank you all. Yes, you've known me for this long. I'm sorry, this is who I'm going to become. Because this is a dark academia, secret society murder mystery with moon arcana and tide magic, and that is Curious Tides by Pascal Lascelles. I'm about to bring Pascal Lascelles up on charges because I'm vaguely concerned how she got the technology from the movie Inception to go inside my brain and just pick out everything that I could possibly want in a book and then make it. Our main character, Emery, is a student at the Aldrin College for Lunar Magics, where your magic is tied to the phase of the moon that you were born under. At the end of last year, she accidentally interrupted this black magic ritual that killed 8 of her classmates, and she was the only one that survived. Now it's the beginning of a new school year, and she has this dark magic that she doesn't understand, and so in an attempt to figure out what went wrong at that ritual and also what's happening with her, she tries to infiltrate this secret society that the students have, as well as getting a little closer to the brother of one of her friends who died. The way that she plays with dreams and time and power and the power of the sea and of the tide is all mixed together with this cyclical folktale element. So in this world, there's already an important and well-known folktale about the tide magic and like how it came to be with the 4 mother goddesses. And at the beginning of each part of this novel, there's a page or two from that story. But then everything starts to mirror what's going on in that original folktale legend, and it's this whole like mindfuck of like, are people tied to their fate? Tied to their fate. Are we doomed to repeat his legend, his dream world history magic? We don't know. My takeaway from this book is, get you a friend who will interdimensionally travel for you, and get you a man who will stop time. One of the most gorgeous books I have ever read, and truly a phenomenal debut. I was swept away, if you will, although, between you and me, I don't like this title. And I think Tide Thief would have worked a lot better. Sequel title, perhaps? We don't know. And while we're on the topic of ocean magic, a fantastical swashbuckling adventure novel that I finished in the summer, which actually I think was a bad call. I should have waited till the winter. But now it's winter, so I would highly recommend, if you have not read this book, to go and pick it up right now, because Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long is the perfect, salty, magical, wintry, fantasy, pirate book of everyone's dreams. It's like if you combine the fantastical elements of Pirates of the Caribbean with the political machinations of Treasure Island, but like if Treasure Island was in hell. First, we meet Mary, a storm singer, a woman with the power to change the weather with her voice. And in trying to escape servitude for a pirate captain and keeping herself from hanging, she offers her services to that captain's arch nemesis, where then she meets Samuel, who's a disgraced naval officer who also has a vendetta against the sea captain that Mary is trying to escape from. But when she accidentally steals a talisman of his and allies herself with some of his enemies, they are both suddenly in this race to find this otherworldly ship and the treasure buried there. H.M. Long did such a good job of really embodying all of how awful winter is, especially aboard a ship. It's all like slush and grime, and you can feel the cold, icy wind off of the sea, and the magic of the other in this world is so cool. First of all, we have gistings, which are like spirits that will go inside of trees, so like tree spirits, and if you cut down the tree and you make a ship out of the tree, you get a gisting that will like lead your ship and protect it. But also you can call to the other world through dreams, and sometimes Samuel brings things back. There's weather magic and tithing islands, plus intrigue and betrayal and sword fights and all the good stuff that you want in a piratey novel. And can we all collectively give it up for Hannah Long for putting in correct 1600s dress. Historical costumers rejoice because Mary is wearing the shift and the stockings and the stays and the hoops and the pockets and the buckles and the stomacher and a cap. She has her wearing a head cap, finally! Anyways, this was fantastical creatures and high stakes adrenaline and 2 pretty people looking at each other, but being too damn busy to actually do anything about it. So I cannot wait for the sequel, Black Tide Sun, which comes out I suppose, this year. Oh, and what's that? We got ourselves another swashbuckling novel. A book that really did it all for me this year because it was a historical fantasy that had deals with demons. We got swashbuckling, we got badass lady pirates, and we have a Kraken cameo. May I once again sing the praises of The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This piratey novel of magic and mayhem follows Amina al-Sirafi, who is by all accounts a retired pirate. She gets commissioned / blackmailed by a rich woman. Her daughter has been stolen and she offers glory and cash if Amina can go and get her back. Amina begrudgingly agrees, but of course, once she is on this quest, she finds out that there's more to this kidnapping than was assumed, and she gets pulled into this mystery chase full of ancient artifacts and dark magic. I particularly love this book because it does something about the thing that I've been complaining about for years, which is, where are all the older / middle-aged protagonists being badass in fantasy novels? Why are all the fantasy novels out there about a dumb, young 16-year-old with a magic sword who knows absolutely shit about the world and probably should still be doing their algebra homework? Finally, we have a pirate queen who's like, I have done some shit, I have seen some shit, and I'm not gonna put up with your shit, but then also like being practical to be like, there's some bad noises coming from there, we're not gonna go check those out actually. And even though Amina is almost twice my age, I can still highly relate to her, the guilt she feels for the people that she's leaving behind, but then also the need to prove herself once again, and still having that thrill of the hunt, of being on the sea, even though she doesn't want to like it. And this book also has a structure that I really like, which is the story within a story. So we are being told the story by a narrator who is writing down this adventure, and that adds a whole new layer of fun. I had a great time with this medieval Islamic world fantasy pirate novel, and I really hope that there is going to be a sequel. Speaking of sequels, I'm doing so good at these segues. I didn't plan any of this. This is the only sequel on this list, and that's not really that surprising because according to my reading stats, I only read like 6 or 7 sequels this year. And that's actually an all-time high. I know, it's to the detriment of my own enjoyment of someone telling me a long-form story. I get it, but I haven't thought my way out of that yet, okay? However, my subconscious, for some reason, allowed me a pass for this next one, because back at the beginning of the year, I ended up reading Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, which is the sequel to... What is it the sequel to? Ninth House. I didn't love Ninth House, thought it was okay, but Hellbent, this baby showed the fuck up. Ninth House was also a dark academia secret society that followed our 4 main characters as they were trying to unearth some arcane secrets and also like maybe not get sucked into hell, which happens a little bit. Of course the writing is beautiful and Leigh just takes you to this grotesque arcane world of Leith. The issues that people raised in the first book were not present in this at all. I really loved how twisted that this book got. There are 2 very particular reasons why I personally love this book. Number 1, there is a library that has books that have human vertebrae for spines. Number 2, there are demon horses. Thank you and good night. There were a couple things that threw me off in this, not gonna lie. The story with Trip was very weird. And then glow stick. And if you know, you know. I also find it very funny that the whole first book we're like trying to do all these rituals to gain access to hell, and then by the second time we could just like pop on down, like we are going to the 7-Eleven down at the corner to grab like a Coke Zero and a bag of chips. Like I feel like it should not be that easy, but hey, who am I to judge? I've never been to Yale. Leigh, I know you're contracted to write like 8 books right now with Macmillan, but if you could hurry up and get on the 3rd of this series, that'd be so great. Thank you so much. Well, I guess this is kind of a sequel. It's not though, because it's a start of a new series. It's just a companion sequel, so I'm not gonna count that. Yet again, no rules, no gods. The start of a new companion series that I loved, maybe even more than the first, was the Dark Fairy Extravaganza that was The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is another of the Elfheim world that takes place 8 years after the events of the Cruel Prince. Even after their years ago defeat at the Battle of the Serpent, the Court of Teeth is still politically scheming, and their heir, Surin, has escaped to the human world. But after Prince Oak and his bodyguard Tyrion save Surin from a monster her mother sent after her, they have to team up to go to the Ice Needle Citadel? Did I get that right? Yes. They all need to team up to go and stop her mother from doing bad stuff, and then betrayal and fairy court politics. Holly is back to doing what she does best, and I absolutely adore that this is political machinations and alliances and kingdom building, between people who are not human and do not have the same priorities as humans do. She builds this world of ice and rot and guilt and bones. And whereas in The Cruel Prince, when you see Jude and Taryn grow up as human in the fairy world, we now see Oak and Surin, who are fairies who grew up in the fairy world. And so the way that they are cruel and the way that they manipulate people is very different. And I loved being inside Surin's head for this book. Looking forward to Prisoner's Throne? Is that right? All right, hold on, fact check. Prisoner's Throne, I was right, I'm a genius. Oh, you can bet that March 5th, I'm going to be in a bookstore. And another book that I finished just in December that I ended up putting on my top books of the year list, like number one reason why you shouldn't do your favorite books of the year on like December 1st. Baby, why are you limiting yourself like that? I want you to live life to the fullest. A book that was so gross. I stole myself because I really wanted to read the new horror gothic by Andrew Joseph White. So I don't know how I did, but I somehow managed to read The Spirit Bares Its Teeth. The experience of reading this book was me sitting on my couch alternating between what the actual fuck and ew for 381 pages. It's 1881 in London, and the veil between our world and the spirit realm has beginning to thin. So now the Speaker Society is the top form of government. Our main character Silas is a trans boy whose family is grooming him to be the perfect speaker wife, but when an escape attempt to escape an arranged marriage goes awry, he is sent to a sanatorium boarding school to cure him of his spirit madness. But once he's there, spirits of dead students start trying to speak with him, and he realizes that there's something sinister going on beneath the school, and he has to figure out what's going on before maybe he's next. Now, this is completely my own fault, because I went into this being like, ooh, a fun gothic boarding school mystery novel with a trans autistic main character. That should be fun. Totally forgetting that it's Andrew Joseph White. So it was disgusting. Medical horror, body horror, but then also, some hard conversations about like what it means to be transgender, particularly in this time period. The intersection of gender and autism. And something that I wasn't expecting is a look into trans parenthood and motherhood and what it means to biologically parent or create children when you are transgender. This book was just really difficult to read, okay? A lot of cool stuff with like ghosts and the afterlife, and of course some interesting horror aspects, and then a couple of really nice friendships, and Daphne, and I will cry if we don't move on. But also, oh my god, I had like 80 pages left, and it was like midnight, and I was kind of debating, like, I don't know if I can push through these, maybe I'll just like wait for them, I'll save them for tomorrow, and then I like flipped a page, and then it was like, oh my god, no, I need to finish this right now. So yeah, if you liked Hell Followed With Us, and you want to read more queer horror novels, just maybe check some of the content warnings. Thank you once again, Andrew Joseph White. This was disgusting, and I can't wait to read your next book. Ooh, final two. Our second to last is perfect for spooky season, but lucky for you also, spooky season is all year round. As you can see, I like to keep bones on my shelves at all times, and when is necromancy ever not in style? I am beyond excited to present to you my second to last favorite book of 2023 is Bonesmith by Nikki Pau-Preto. Our main character is a badass warrior heir who's running around with two giant swords of bone strapped to her back that she uses to kill ghosts, and she's doing it all while wearing a permanent smoky eye and a dark lip. And honestly, goals. This is a Gideon the Ninth meets Game of Thrones-esque fantasy world where ghosts need to be specially killed by people called bonesmiths. Our main character Ren is the heir to the House of Bone, but when her initiation ritual gets sabotaged, she is sent to guard the border wall, which is the last line of defense against the breach, which is a space that just has the wandering undead. But at the same time, there is a prince of the House of Gold who gets kidnapped by rebels and taken beyond the wall, so Ren thinks that to restore her good name, that she will go and try to retrieve this prince, only for it to go horribly wrong, and now she needs to team up with one of the rebels of the House of Iron to try and get the prince back, but then also, oh wow, we uncover a conspiracy darker than we could have ever imagined. A true enemies to lovers between Ren and Julian that I really, really enjoyed, and I love this whole bone smithing and ghost smithing magic that we get into. Like, if a ghost dies a traumatic death, it can link itself to a bone in the body, so it's called an anchor bone, and Ren goes around and splits the anchor bone but then she can also use that bone to like grind it up and do magic with bone dust and powder. But you can't fight a ghost if it's in its like revenant form. You have to break the anchor bone to get it out, and then you can kill it. Like, it's a super unique twist on ghost folklore. But an aspect of this book that snuck up on me that I really ended up loving was Prince Leo, who is our golden prince. I didn't even think he was gonna get screen time. I thought he was gonna be kind of a background character, but we get full POVs from him. We have a full relationship between him and Ren. I love him. He's so funny, and especially he reminds me of Nikolai Lancelov from the Shadow and Bone series. He's snarky and cunning, and he's pretty, and he knows it, and I can't wait to read the sequel to this as well. I just love that there's so many duologies coming out this next year. I'm like, yes, good, just give me 2, go right next to each other, tell me a good story. Duologies all the way. And lastly, sometimes I think to myself, you know, when I'm cracking my wrists, or I'm sitting getting stabbed in a chair, getting a tattoo, not like otherwise, while I'm getting ink injected into my skin, or I'm like crying late at night and like ruining the skincare I just put on, sometimes I look at myself and I go, am I the problem? And then I realize that no, I'm not. Samantha Shannon is the problem. Because last but not least, my favorite book, definitively, of 2023 was A Day of Fallen Night. I got a tattoo of it. A shin tattoo, may I say, which is not fun. I cried my eyes out over this, and I got to meet Samantha Shannon when she was in town in my city in February for this book launch. This advanced copy that I got from Bloomsbury, that is signed by none other than Samantha Shannon, might be my most prized possession that I got in the year of 2023. And I'm very sorry to my parents who bought me some new thermostats for my apartment for Christmas, and a very thoughtful gift of a snake skeleton and more from my lovely partner. I'm very sorry, but I do think that you would understand. This brick of a story, this thick lady, this absolute unit of a book is a prequel to Priory of the Orange Tree. And in this, we mainly follow 3 women who are the ancestors or somewhat historically related to the people from Priory. We follow Tuva, a high priestess of the Priory when people in the order are starting to question their purpose. Dumai, a temple monk whose purpose is to wake the dragons of old, whose mother's past comes to catch up with her. And Glorian Berethnet, a legendary queen from Priory, who at this time is only 15 years old and is forced to take the throne too early and too young when a crouching war happens. Beautiful storytelling of the experiences of 3 queer women, all ages, all walks of life, dragons beyond imagining, and a beautiful array of different cultures and governments all coming together to defend themselves from evil. But at the same time, such a deep and sympathetic look into the lives of women, particularly when it comes to motherhood, the expectations put on women in roles of power. But also because this is a prequel, you get to see the groundwork being laid for the world of Priory and how history doesn't go as people think it did, and the future does not go as people hope it does. She's chunky, but she's doing a lot. This is a gorgeous, high epic fantasy novel that I think is going to be one of the new classics of this century. Was that too much? Maybe, but I'm not taking it back. And that is that on that. Usually at the end of the video, I would like finish my coffee and do that as a bit. However, I don't know what I must have put a lot of grounds in there because there is just a nice sludge at the bottom, and I don't really want to imbibe this. Thank you all for joining me this afternoon as we went over my top 10 books of 2023. Please leave down below what some of your favorite books were in 2023. It doesn't have to be 10 unless you really want to. Overall, I feel like I had a really good reading year in 2023. Like, I rated a lot of stuff 4 and 5 stars. I think I only had like 1 2-star book, but I also feel like 2024 is gonna have more of the like the bombastic, the fantastical, the razzmatazz. All I know is that there are more fairy books coming out, there are more sapphic fantasy dark academia books coming out, one of my good friends' books is coming out, so we're gonna have a great reading year in 2024. I can feel it. To me, the vibe of 2024, I think I could go either way. On one hand, I'm feeling very much like it's gonna be a type A, get things done, have fun, sign up for stuff, like go, like good year. Or I just go completely feral, don't know where the crossroads is, And I don't think I've gotten there yet, but I guess only time will tell. You know where I clicked like the video. You know where I clicked to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!